There is a strange financial paradox happening across America. Some people earn more money in a single year than others will see over several years, yet they still worry about the next unexpected bill. Imagine a specialist earning $350,000 a year. From the outside, everything looks successful. A nice home, 2 newer cars, expensive vacations, restaurants several nights a week, maybe private school for the children. But underneath the appearance, there is very little financial breathing room. A major car repair arrives. A medical expense isn't fully covered by insurance. The roof needs replacing. Suddenly, finding $10,000 becomes a problem. How can someone earning hundreds of thousands of dollars still feel financially fragile? Because income and wealth are two completely different things. Income is the money that enters your life. Wealth is the money that remains after your lifestyle has taken its share. And this distinction explains one of the most misunderstood financial problems of modern America, the high-income poverty trap. The trap begins innocently. You get a raise. Your salary goes from $70,000 to $100,000. You don't immediately become reckless. You simply allow life to improve a little. The apartment becomes a nicer apartment. The old car gets replaced. Eating out becomes more frequent. You take better vacations. Then another promotion arrives. Now you're making $150,000. So the house gets bigger. The car payment gets larger. The vacations become more expensive. Perhaps you add private school, upgraded insurance, more subscriptions, and a few memberships. Nothing feels outrageous by itself. That's what makes the trap so effective. The problem isn't one gigantic purchase. It's the accumulation of hundreds of decisions that quietly turn your previous lifestyle into your new minimum standard. And once that happens, every additional dollar of income already has a destination. This is lifestyle inflation. The dangerous part is that lifestyle inflation doesn't feel like inflation. It feels like progress. You don't tell yourself, I'm increasing my expenses. You tell yourself, I can finally afford this. And technically, you can. But affordability isn't the same thing as financial security. A person earning $300,000 who spends $295,000 isn't necessarily wealthier than someone earning $120,000 who spends $80,000. The first person has a larger income. The second person may have far greater financial freedom. That is the distinction most people miss. The people who build substantial wealth often don't look particularly wealthy. They may drive an older vehicle. They may live in a perfectly ordinary neighborhood. They may shop carefully, avoid unnecessary debt, and keep housing costs below what their income technically allows. One of the most important questions isn't, how much do you make? It's, how much of what you make are you able to keep? Consider 2 households. Household A earns $250,000 and spends $235,000. Household B earns $150,000 and spends $100,000. Household A has the impressive income. Household B has the stronger financial engine. The second household has $50,000 available for investing, debt reduction, emergency reserves, or other financial goals. The first has only $15,000. Over 1 year, the difference is noticeable. Over 20 years, it can become enormous. That's because money invested early doesn't simply remain money. It has the opportunity to produce additional money. Then that money produces more money. Compounding rewards the person who creates a gap between income and spending. This is where high earners sometimes make a critical mistake. They assume their salary itself is their safety net. It isn't. A high salary can disappear quickly when it is supporting a high-cost lifestyle. And high earners have access to something lower-income households often don't: expensive upgrades. A person earning $60,000 may have a limited choice of housing. A person earning $300,000 can qualify for a much larger mortgage. But qualifying for a payment doesn't mean the payment is wise. The same thing happens with vehicles. A higher income doesn't just allow someone to buy a more expensive car. It can normalize 2 expensive cars. Then add insurance, maintenance, fuel, taxes, and financing. The monthly payment is only the beginning. The same pattern applies to housing. A larger home doesn't just cost more to purchase. It costs more to heat, cool, furnish, maintain, insure, and eventually repair. A second home creates another collection of recurring expenses. Private education creates tuition obligations. Luxury travel creates expectations. Memberships create recurring bills. Eventually, what started as discretionary spending begins functioning like a fixed cost. And fixed costs are dangerous because they are difficult to reverse. You can decide not to buy another expensive watch. It's much harder to suddenly decide that your mortgage, school tuition, or second vehicle no longer fits your budget. This is why financial flexibility matters so much. A household with low fixed expenses can survive a temporary income disruption. A household with enormous fixed expenses may be financially vulnerable even with a very high salary. There's another force making the problem worse: comparison. People rarely compare themselves with everyone. They compare themselves with the people immediately above them. Someone making $100,000 may look at someone making $150,000. Someone making $200,000 looks at someone making $400,000. Someone making $500,000 compares themselves with executives, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and people living in the wealthiest neighborhoods. The target keeps moving, and social media makes this dramatically worse. You don't see someone's mortgage balance. You don't see their credit card statement. You don't see the investments they failed to make. You see the hotel room. You see the new car. You see the restaurant. You see the vacation. That creates an illusion where consumption becomes the visible measurement of success. But wealth is often invisible. The person quietly investing $8,000 every month doesn't create a viral Instagram post. The person buying a $100,000 vehicle does. So the internet can make financial insecurity look like financial success. And that's dangerous. Because once expensive consumption becomes normal among your peers, ordinary living can start to feel like falling behind. This is where the psychological side of money becomes more important than the mathematical side. Most high earners already understand that they should save. They know about retirement accounts. They know investing matters. They have probably heard about compound growth hundreds of times. Their problem isn't necessarily financial knowledge. It's that spending has become emotionally connected to success. The raise doesn't simply increase income. It increases the standard of living the person believes they deserve. And once that standard rises, going backward can feel like failure. A person who once considered a $25,000 car perfectly acceptable may eventually feel uncomfortable driving one after becoming a high earner. Not because the vehicle stopped working, because their identity changed. That's the hidden cost of lifestyle inflation. You become dependent not only on your possessions, but on the version of yourself those possessions represent. Escaping this trap doesn't mean becoming miserable. It means becoming deliberate. If you genuinely value expensive travel, spend money on travel. If private education is one of your highest priorities, pay for it. If driving a luxury vehicle brings you tremendous enjoyment, that's your choice. The important question is whether you're choosing those expenses or simply inheriting them from your income level and social environment. There is a huge difference. Intentional spending says, "This matters to me, so I'm willing to trade money for it." Lifestyle inflation says, "People at my income level are supposed to have this." The first creates control. The second creates pressure. The practical solution is surprisingly simple. Don't save whatever happens to remain at the end of the month. Decide what you want to build first. Then make that amount automatic. For example, imagine someone earning $300,000 who decides that 25% of gross income should go toward long-term wealth building. That's $75,000 a year before considering investment growth. Both people may look equally successful today. 20 years later, they can live completely different lives. Assuming a long-term average investment return of around 7%, investing $75,000 annually for 20 years could grow to roughly $3.1 million. Investing only $15,000 annually under the same assumption produces roughly $620,000. That's a difference of more than $2 million created primarily by one decision. How much income becomes lifestyle and how much becomes assets? This is why earning more money is only half the equation. The other half is controlling the distance between what you earn and what you spend. And that distance is where wealth is created. So if you're a high earner and still feel financially stressed, don't automatically assume you need another raise. You may need to examine the structure of your life. Look at the recurring bills. Look at housing. Look at vehicles. Look at subscriptions. Look at debt. Look at how much you're investing every month. Then ask a difficult question. If your income stopped increasing tomorrow, could your current lifestyle continue comfortably? If the answer is no, your income may be high, but your financial independence is still low. Real wealth isn't the ability to buy almost anything. It's the ability to say no to almost anything without being financially afraid. The person with the smaller house and substantial investments may have more freedom than the person with the mansion and enormous monthly obligations. The person driving the 10-year-old car may be wealthier than the person leasing the newest luxury model. And the person earning $150,000 with low expenses may have more financial security than the person earning $500,000 who needs every paycheck to maintain the lifestyle. That is the paradox. A high income can make you look rich, but only the portion you keep, invest, and protect can make you wealthy. The goal isn't to spend less simply for the sake of spending less. The goal is to make sure your lifestyle doesn't consume the future you're working so hard to create. Because eventually, the question stops being how much you earn. It becomes how much of your income is still working for you long after you've finished working for it. And that's where a high income finally becomes something more valuable than an impressive number on a paycheck. It becomes freedom.